Hello everybody, Caden here today with an episode of the Jurassic World Reborn zoo thing as it currently stands. Today we're back building another exhibit for the, well, not another exhibit for the Stegosaurus. We're building another exhibit, and that is the Stegosaurus Exhibit. I'm going to preface this. I know I already mentioned this in the actual build. These things are enormous, and you know when I said in the Carnotaurus exhibit that, oh, I think I figured out the size of them. No, I haven't. I really haven't. These things are the size of blue whales, and I did not put enough space in this exhibit, even though I spent absolute ages building it and, you know, really tried to make it a good size. Like, wow, it blows my mind. Anyway, so I've been trying to do something a bit different with each exhibit, so that way they don't all kind of feel the same. Although I think I am going to start going to somewhat of a pattern and focusing more on actually doing the interior of the exhibit a bit more and doing stuff like that instead of spending so long on the viewing areas. But we'll see. But yeah, I tried to do a bit of an elevated walkway kind of viewing area for this one, like one you would see in a giraffe exhibit, kinda. And I messed up the dimensions on it a bit, so it's a wee bit narrow, but I can easily fix that in the future if I would like to. But yeah, I thought this was an interesting way to just do a viewing area. Of course, there are improvements I could do. I might switch up the staircases a little bit. They're a bit odd, I guess, but I like them, I think. Well, also this one, the one that just goes straight off instead of going at an angle, that was originally a mistake. But then it let me do something really cool where I could make a big wall and then connect that up to the build and all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, lots of mistakes with this build, but also I think it turns out to be pretty good. Not quite as good as the Carnotaurus, but better than the Protoceratops and the Rugops, I think. Rugops is actually, no, the main problem with that exhibit is just it's way too small and I didn't finish it necessarily, but yeah. So we do also mess up with the grass tool once again, because of course I do. Although it's not as bad this time, and we actually, I got things done a lot quicker with the setting up the terrain, and I think the terrain on this one actually looks really nice in terms of elevation. We spent a lot more time on it today. I'm just kind of getting more and more levels, stacking more blocks on top of each other to get a bit more of an interesting hill shape. Unfortunately, that means if I connect any builds up to the Stegosaurus, I'm gonna have to start building a hill, and anything behind the Stegosaurus is going to be elevated a pretty good deal, so I gotta, you know, remember that for future builds. So I also did something I was quite happy with here. This is something I want to start doing a bit more, and that is not just doing straight, you know, what is it? How have I been doing it recently? I guess it's like viewing area, rock wall, fence, viewing area kind of thing. So like, you know, just look back at the Carnotaurus exhibit. That is a perfect example of what my builds usually are. But for this one, I think I have 2 different rock walls, 2 different sets of fences, and the viewing area. And I think that actually gave it a really interesting kind of look, kind of feel. I was really happy with how that turned out, and I think that's something I want to try to do a bit more often with it. Just because I think it gives it a bit more of a natural, more zoo-like look. Because, you know, obviously in a real zoo, it's not all just rock walls usually, and it's not all just fences, except for certain exhibits. Speaking of which, I haven't done a dug down exhibit yet. Like, I haven't dug one into the ground yet, so I guess I can probably do one of those builds soon. I don't know what dinosaur I'll pick for that. Speaking of which, if you guys want to suggest any more dinosaurs, let me know, because the last 2 have both been highly suggested. I've gotten a lot of requests for Stegosaurus and a lot of requests for Carnotaurus, so I don't know, whichever dinosaur I see really popping up a ton, I'll try and get that in. Also, if you saw the fences I just built there and they look kind of familiar, they should, because that is the fence I use for my giraffe exhibits in Wildlife Park. So yeah, I figured that was a good looking fence for this, because I was like, oh, well, I use that for my big animals in my regular zoos, right? So like my elephants, my giraffes, all sorts of stuff, they use these kind of fences. So I was like, oh, of course this is gonna be a good enough fence. Again, I completely did not realize, even after spawning some stegosaurs in and using the skeleton as a base plate, apparently they're way bigger than that, and I just got very unlucky and got the very small stegosaurs when I was testing, and got the really, really big stegosaurs when I was actually building it. So, yeah. This is the first river I've decided to put into any of these builds, and I don't know why I wanted to put a river in here. In fact, I'm not necessarily sure why the Stegosaurus exhibit looks the way it does. I think it ended up being a combination of like what I've seen. I think a bit of like, what am I thinking? What's it called? The BBC documentary, Walking with Dinosaurs. A bit of Walking with Dinosaurs, combined with the Lost World. And this is what I did with it. I don't really know. It's kind of a weird amalgamation of different things. A bit of a spruce forest, a fir tree forest, some ferns, a big river, all sorts of cool stuff. I think the river actually is one of the things I really liked about this build, though. It looks cool. It definitely distinguishes itself from the rest of the build. I also did the rock walls differently for this one. Usually I've been doing them where we start at the base and narrow the cliff up as we go up, but this one I kind of did as an inverted one. I haven't done actually an inverted wall like this, or a purely inverted wall like this in quite a while. So it's kind of fun to do, and I really like the look of it. I don't like doing these ones all the time because I don't know, I feel like these are the ones it's easier to mess it up with. Like, it's a lot easier to kind of mess up how it's supposed to look, and then it looks really weird. But I think this one turned out all right. There's still areas where it could be improved, but I think, just like everything else, throwing in the rock texture really just improves it that much more, really makes it look a lot nicer, and I'm actually punching that into the command console right now. Man, it takes me a while. I should really just write down all of my my commands and put them in a notepad so I can just copy paste them into the game. That would actually be a much smarter idea and something I should definitely do because that saves me a lot of time. I was having trouble with granite. For some reason, the idea it was telling me wasn't working, so I just decided not to do granite. I was gonna do granite though. I was gonna do the Savannah rock walls. So if I can figure out how to get that to work correctly, I'm going to switch these over to the granite ones because I think those look really cool. I actually want to do granite walls in a couple more builds, just because I think they're really cool looking. I rather like them. They're a lot of fun to do. But yeah, like I said, this exhibit has a bit more of a slope to it. I really liked how that turned out. It looks really good from here, I think. Yeah. It's actually a lot of fun for me to watch these replays back when I do the voiceover, just because I get to see my build kind of come together, and it looks so much better with shaders than it does without shaders when I'm building it. And yeah, it's really fun to see all this happen. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say, so I'm gonna let the rest of this play out, and I'll meet back up with you guys to show off the final build. Alright everybody, here is the final exhibit for our Stegosauruses, and yeah, I think it looks pretty cool overall. So, you guys all remember, if you guys remember back to the start of the time lapse, I put a Stegosaurus skeleton down, right, to kind of get an idea of how big it was, right? And then I built all this, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a fairly massive build. This is easily gonna be enough space. No, it isn't. Apparently, these things are absolutely ginormous, and this exhibit does not seem big enough for 4. So I might send these guys off to another zoo, cough cough, so that we only have maybe 2 in here, maybe just 3, who knows. We'll see how many Stegosaurus I end up wanting. But yeah, I didn't do too much work in between episodes like I did for the, not between episodes, between clips like I did for the Carnotaurus. Mostly just because I haven't really decided what else is going to be going around here, because obviously there's going to be more exhibits kind of building off of this. But yeah, so since I don't know what else is going here, I'm not going to start filling things in. This area was pretty easy since it was already between 2 exhibits, but anyway. I really like the feel of this exhibit. I think it still needs more work, and especially in regards to like the cliffs there, but once we add in more builds around it, it'll look a lot better, but I really like this. if anything, I feel like the Stegosaurus themselves kind of ruined it, ironically. But I love all the plants. I love the ferns being the majority of like the grass thing we're using. I love the trees. I love the waterfall, the river, the lake. I love just the general landscape of it all and the fences. I think this is one of my favorites. I don't think it's my favorite though. I think that still goes to the Carnotaurus enclosure, which, I mean, I think it just looks spectacular. I really do. But yeah, I think, I'm trying to think. I thought I had something else to say. I don't really remember what it was anymore though. Oh yeah, what do you guys think of these little, I don't know, these signs I've been doing for the dinosaurs? What do you guys think of this? I did actually put the Protoceratops one here. I was gonna put another Stegosaurus, but then I realized if you're walking this way, you probably wanna know what dinosaur's over here, and you know, not what dinosaur's that way. But I really like these. I think they're kind of cool to put in. But yeah, other than that, I don't really think there is terribly much to say. Yeah, no, I am just shocked each time I spawn these things. Like, I actually spawned a couple Stegosaurs in beforehand to be like, oh, okay, so this is about how big a Stegosaurus is. And then I put the skeleton down, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is how big a Stegosaurus is. Apparently, that's not how big a Stegosaurus is. Stegosaurus is a behemoth that's about the size of a blue whale. But yeah, I actually wanted to mention this. I threw in these fern bales, and actually, I think if I do this in the future, since there's like 1 billion types of these bales, I'm gonna start mixing them together to get a bit more texture out of it. But yeah, like, I don't know, again, I'm just really happy with this. I think it turned out really well. I do think dynamic trees was a good call from you guys for a mod to add to a series like this. I think it looks really cool. It adds in a lot of interest to the build, makes the trees look more interesting without me having to spend hours doing that. Granted though, even though I spent barely any time texturing things or making custom trees, this exhibit still took forever to build. Oh boy. Well, anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed. Let me know what other dinosaurs or prehistoric creatures from the mod you guys would like to see next. And yeah, until next time, guys. See ya.